Red Zone, Book 1, Wipeout Squad Audiobook Series. Chapter 3, First Blood and the Carnivorous Fog. The parking garage gave way to a maintenance corridor that Steele's HUD identified as Research Complex Alpha's outer perimeter. The walls here were reinforced concrete lined with biohazard warnings that glowed faintly in the red fog. Emergency lights flickered overhead, casting strobing shadows that made every corner a potential ambush point. "Contact," Deadeye whispered, his rifle tracking movement ahead. Human-sized, but the thermal's wrong. Too hot. Steele raised his fist. Halt. The team froze, weapons ready. Through the swirling fog, shapes materialized. 3 technicians in torn lab coats, stumbling toward them with arms outstretched. "Survivors?" Stitch asked hopefully. "Negative." Deadeye's scope never wavered. "Whisperers, watch their mouths." As if on cue, one of the technicians opened its mouth impossibly wide. "Help us," it said in a woman's voice, perfect and terrifying. "Please, the children, help the children." Recorded voices. Wolf's transmission crackled in their ears from wherever he was sheltering. They harvest vocal cords from victims. Don't listen. Don't engage unless necessary. The Whisperers shambled past the team's position, seemingly unaware. One wore a nameplate, Dr. Chen, Virology Division. Its eyes were filmed over, movements jerky and uncoordinated. These were the failed mutations, the ones who hadn't completed the transformation but weren't quite human anymore. Steele waited until they disappeared into the fog before signaling, "Move." They advanced deeper into the complex, passing through what had once been a decontamination checkpoint. The airlocks hung open, seals rotted away. Steele's HUD painted the architecture in wireframe. They were close now, maybe 200 meters from the central structure where Wolf waited. That's when the ceiling exploded. A leaper dropped like a missile, its powerful hind legs having launched it from some hidden perch above. Steele saw the blur of motion, saw the creature's hooked claws reaching for his faceplate, and reacted on pure instinct. He brought his carbine up horizontally, catching the leaper's descending strike on the weapon's reinforced barrel. The impact nearly broke his arms, drove him to one knee, but he held. The creature's face was inches from his own, a nightmare of stretched skin and too many teeth, eyes wild with predatory intelligence. "Hammer!" Steele roared. The big man was already moving. His sledgehammer came around in a brutal arc, catching the leaper in mid-spine with the sound of shattering bone. The creature's shriek cut off instantly as its vertebrae exploded into fragments. It fell twitching to the floor, legs still kicking in death spasms. "Thanks," Steele gasped, checking his carbine for damage. "That's 2 you own me," Hammer replied, already scanning for more threats. "I'm keeping count." "Movement above!" Deadeye's rifle barked twice. A second leaper fell from the ceiling, dead before it hit the ground. "They're using the ductwork. Could be dozens up there." "Keep moving," Steele ordered. "Double time to the shelter. Breach, can you seal the ducts behind us?" "Not without bringing the whole ceiling down. Boss, we need to—" Breach stopped mid-sentence, staring at the corridor ahead. "Oh, fuck. Boss, you need to see this." Steele moved to the front, and his blood turned to ice. The red fog was moving wrong. It wasn't drifting with air currents or settling in low spots. It was flowing purposefully, concentrating into tendrils that reached and grasped like living things. And where it touched the 3 Whisperers they'd passed earlier— "Oh, Jesus Christ," Stitch breathed. "Is that fog eating them?" That's exactly what it was doing. The Whisperers had stopped their shambling advance, standing frozen as the red fog coiled around their bodies. Their lab coats dissolved first, the fabric simply ceasing to exist as the fog touched it. Then their skin began to slough away in wet ribbons, revealing muscle that bubbled and liquefied. The creatures tried to scream, but the fog poured into their mouths, dissolving them from the inside out. In less than 30 seconds, there was nothing left but 3 skeletons that collapsed into powder. "The fog's evolving." Wolf's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. "I'm reading a massive spike in enzymatic activity. It's not just toxic anymore, it's carnivorous. Organic matter acts as a catalyst. The more it consumes, the faster it evolves." "How long before it can eat through our suits?" Steele demanded. "Unknown. Minutes, maybe." "You need to reach the sealed shelter now. I'm uploading coordinates. You have 10 minutes, maybe less, before the fog saturates the insulation enough to breach the complex's inner chambers." Steele's HUD lit up with a route marker, 175 meters northeast, through what his map showed as a laboratory section. His timer updated, hour 2:14. "You heard the man," Steele said grimly. "We move fast, we move quiet, and we don't touch anything if we can help it. The fog's hunting organic matter, so every drop of blood is a beacon. Stitch, if anyone gets wounded, you seal it immediately. Clear?" "Crystal," Stitch confirmed, already pulling out a quick clot canister. They ran through corridors that grew increasingly bizarre. The fog here was thick enough to reduce visibility to barely 10 meters, swirling in patterns that suggested intelligence. Worse, they began to hear sounds, whispers that weren't quite words, clicking that wasn't quite insectile, and beneath it all, a low, throbbing pulse like a massive heartbeat. "Breach, you getting this on your seismic sensors?" Steele asked as they navigated around a collapsed section of wall. "Yeah, and I don't like it. Something big is moving underground. Really big. Displacement is off the charts. Worry about it later. Right now we—" A scream cut through the fog. Human, male, close. The team rounded a corner and found another survivor, a technician pinned beneath a collapsed ceiling panel, his legs crushed, face white with shock and blood loss. But he was alive, his eyes tracking them with desperate hope. "Help!" he gasped. "Please! It attacked from above. I can't feel my legs." Stitch was already moving forward, medical instincts overriding tactical sense. Steele grabbed his shoulder. "Wait, scan him first." Deadeye's scope swept the area. No thermals on him, suit's compromised, but he's not showing infection signs yet. "But above us," his voice went tight, "we've got 3, no 4 leapers in the ceiling. They're waiting." "It's a trap," Hammer stated flatly. The technician heard them, understood, and his face crumpled. "I know," he said quietly. "I know what I am. But please, don't leave me for the fog. I've seen what it does." Steele made a decision he'd regret for the rest of his life. "Stitch, you've got 2 minutes. Do what you can." The medic dropped beside the technician, his hands already assessing the damage. "Crushed femurs, massive internal bleeding. I can stabilize him, but he needs a proper med bay. We can't carry him and maintain combat speed. Then stabilize him and we move on. I'm sorry, son," Steele said to the technician. "Liar," the technician said without malice, "but thank you for trying." He fumbled at his belt, pulled out a data chip. "Take this, research logs. Wolf needs to see them. Promise me." "I promise." That's when the Leapers attacked. They dropped simultaneously from 4 different ceiling panels, a coordinated ambush that would have overwhelmed them if Deadeye hadn't been watching. His rifle barked 3 times, 3 Leapers dead in midair. The 4th reached Stitch, its hooked claws extending for the medic's exposed neck. Steele put 5 rounds through its skull before it could connect. The creature's momentum carried it forward, its dying body slamming into both Stitch and the technician. "Move!" Steele hauled Stitch away from the tangle of bodies. Behind them, the technician screamed, not in pain, but in warning. A Leaper's claw had caught him across the face, hooks tearing through soft tissue with surgical precision. His cheek and lips came away in a single wet strip, exposing teeth and bone beneath. Blood sprayed in arterial spurts. "Stitch," Steele snapped. "The fog." The medic saw it instantly. Blood was organic matter, and the carnivorous fog was already converging on the scent. They had seconds. Stitch's hands moved with desperate speed. He pulled a trauma sealant from his kit, sprayed it directly into the gaping wound. The technician tried to scream but couldn't. His vocal cords were exposed, his airway compromised. "Tracheotomy," Stitch announced, pulling out a pocket knife. "Hold him." Hammer pinned the thrashing technician while Stitch worked. The medic's hands were rock steady, despite the carnivorous fog creeping closer, despite the wet sounds of tissue being cut, despite everything. He made a precise incision in the trachea, inserted a breathing tube, and secured it with medical tape, all in under 60 seconds. The technician's breathing stabilized, ragged but functional. "Can you walk?" Stitch asked, knowing the answer. The technician shook his head. His eyes found Steele's, and in them was understanding, acceptance. Steele made another decision. He pulled his sidearm, but the technician's hand caught his wrist. The man pointed to his belt where a fragmentation grenade hung. His meaning was clear. Let me go out on my own terms. Let me take some of them with me. "God forgive me," Steele whispered, but he handed over the grenade. "Wait for us to clear the corridor. Then, do what you need to do." The technician nodded, his ruined face somehow managing gratitude. The team moved out at a dead run. Behind them, they heard clicking. Leapers were converging on the blood scent. Heard the technician's labored breathing through the improvised tracheotomy. Heard the metallic ping of a grenade pin being pulled. The explosion came 10 seconds later, followed by shrieks of dying mutants. "Contact front," Deadeye called out. "More whisperers, but they're running from something." Through the fog emerged another group of the shambling infected, but these weren't hunting, they were fleeing. Behind them, the carnivorous fog rolled like a living tsunami, tendrils reaching out to grab the slower runners. "Shelter entrance 30 meters ahead." Wolf's voice was nearly frantic. "I'm opening the door now, but I can't keep it open long. The fog will compromise the seals." Steele saw it, a massive airlock door, ancient but functional, its mechanisms grinding as it slowly opened. Inside, clean air and safety. But 30 meters might as well be 30 kilometers with the fog closing in. Hammer, on point. Everyone else, tight formation. We run through anything in our way. Hammer charged like a freight train, his sledgehammer clearing a path through the confused whisperers. The creatures scattered, too panicked by the fog to coordinate an attack. Behind the team, the red mist was accelerating, sensing prey about to escape. 20 meters. A leaper dropped from above. Breach shot at mid-air without breaking stride. 10 meters. The fog touched Deadeye's boot heel. The ceramic coating began to smoke and dissolve. "Door's closing," Wolf shouted. "I can't hold it." 5 meters. Steele grabbed Deadeye and physically threw him through the narrowing gap. Stitch dove through. Breach followed. Hammer turned sideways, barely fitting through the opening. Steele was last, feeling the fog's heat on his back as he rolled through the airlock. The door slammed shut with hydraulic finality. On the other side, they could hear the fog pounding against reinforced steel, trying to find a way in. Steele lay on the floor, gasping, his HUD showing hour 2:47. They'd made it. Barely. "Everyone sound off," he commanded. Deadeye, green. Boots damaged, but suit integrity holding. Breach, green, but I'm down to half my medical supplies. Hammer, green and hungry. Steele stood, taking stock of their surroundings. They were in a decontamination chamber, all white tile and UV lights. Beyond the inner door, he could see a figure in a civilian hazmat suit waving at them. Dr. Wolf had kept his promise. They'd made it to his shelter. But as Steele checked his ammunition count, 41 rounds remaining, he couldn't shake the image of that technician's ruined face, or the sound of the grenade that had been his only mercy. "Boss?" Stitch was beside him. "That technician, we had to leave him." "I know." His name was Marcus Chen, Virology Division. He had a daughter. It was on his ID tag. Steele looked at the data chip Marcus had given him, now slick with blood that was eating through his glove. He pocketed it carefully. "Then we make his sacrifice count," Steele said quietly. "We complete this mission, Get Wolf's research out and make sure every mutant on this planet pays for what they did to people like Marcus Chen. Through the walls, they heard the fog's attack intensify. Time was running out for the complex, for Karo 7, and possibly for humanity itself. Steele's HUD updated. Hour 2:58. Chapter 4. Wraiths in the Fog. The decontamination chamber's UV lights flickered and died, plunging the team into darkness broken only by their helmet lamps. Steele's HUD registered hour 3:02. They'd been on Karo 7 for 3 hours, and every minute felt like borrowed time. "Wolf," Steele called through the comms. "We're in your outer chamber. Where's the entrance?" Static hissed for several seconds before the scientist's voice came through, tight with tension. "The inner door is sealed. Automatic contamination protocols activated when the fog breached the outer corridors. You need to reach the central server room. I can override the locks from there, but you'll have to come to me." "How far?" Steele demanded. 200 meters, maybe 3 minutes if the corridors are clear." A pause. "They won't be clear." Hammer checked the inner door's control panel, his armored fingers working the ancient interface. "Panel's dead. No power to this section." "Then we go manual," Steele decided. He turned to Breach. "Can you pop this without bringing the ceiling down?" The demolitions expert studied the doorframe, running a handheld scanner along the seams. "It's a blast door, reinforced steel core. I can cut through with a thermal lance, but it'll take 5 minutes and make enough noise to wake every mutant in the complex." "Do it. Deadeye, Stitch, watch our 6. The fog knows we're here." As Breach began cutting, Steele checked his HUD. The tactical overlay showed their position deep within the research complex's inner ring. Wolf's signal was emanating from a cluster of rooms marked Medical Bay, authorized personnel only. Between them and safety were corridors that, according to his map, should have been sterile laboratories. Should have been. "Boss," Deadeye's voice was barely a whisper. "My thermals are going crazy. I'm picking up signatures everywhere, but they're wrong, flickering, like they're there and not there." Steele switched to his own thermal vision and felt his blood run cold. The corridor beyond the door was painted in shifting heat patterns that made no sense. Humanoid shapes appeared and vanished, their thermal signatures cycling from red-hot to ice-cold in seconds. And beneath it all, the red fog was seeping through ventilation ducts, pooling on the floor in eddies that moved against the air currents. "The fog's getting thicker," Stitch observed, his medical scanner showing elevated enzyme readings. "Whatever it did outside, it's accelerating in here. These corridors weren't designed for containment. The virus is adapting to the architecture." "Breach," Steele prompted. "Almost through. 30 seconds." 20 meters behind them, something moved. Steele's helmet lamp caught the motion, just a flicker at the edge of perception. He brought his carbine up, finger on the trigger, but there was nothing there. Just empty corridor and swirling fog. "Contact?" Hammer rumbled, his sledgehammer already in hand. "Negative. Maybe." Steele's HUD flickered, showing a momentary spike in bioelectrical activity, then nothing. "Everyone stay sharp. Something's—" The blast door fell inward with a screech of tortured metal. Breach stepped back, thermal lance still smoking. "We're through. Ladies first." The corridor beyond was a nightmare painted in red. The fog here wasn't just thick, it was saturated, reducing visibility to barely 5 meters. Emergency lighting had failed, leaving only the sick crimson glow of bioluminescent growth covering the walls. It pulsed in rhythm, like the heartbeat of something vast and terrible. Steele led them in, carbine tracking across empty space. His boot crunched on something, and he looked down to see a broken nameplate, Dr. Sarah Kim, Xenobiology. The metal was corroded, half dissolved by the fog's enzymatic action. "Thermals are useless here," Deadeye reported, switching through vision modes on his scope. "Fog's too dense, too hot. I'm going optical only." They moved in tight formation, each soldier scanning their assigned sector. The silence was oppressive, broken only by their filtered breathing and the distant groan of the complex's failing infrastructure. Steele's mind kept replaying Deadeye's words. "They're there and not there." That's when he heard it, a sound so faint he almost missed it. A rhythmic susurrus, like wind through reeds, but coming from ahead in the fog. In, out, breathing. "Halt," Steele whispered, his voice barely audible even over comms. The team froze instantly. The breathing continued, slow and deliberate. Then it stopped, moved to their left, started again, closer now. Steele's HUD showed nothing, no thermal signatures, no movement detection, no bioelectrical activity. But something was circling them in the fog, hunting by sound alone. "Wraiths," Wolf's voice crackled urgently over the comms. "God, I didn't think they'd adapted this far. Listen carefully. They have thermal camouflage, perfect mimicry of ambient temperature. Your sensors won't see them. They hunt by breathing patterns, by the rhythm of your cardiovascular system." "How do we fight them?" Steele subvocalized. "You can't see them thermally, but they're not truly invisible. Watch for refraction, like heat shimmer but in reverse. Movement gives them away. And whatever you do, don't use sound lures. They're too intelligent for that." "Breach," Steele whispered. "You have any chirpers?" 3. "But if Wolf says, do it. I want to see what happens." Breach pulled a small device from his vest, twisted the activator, and tossed it down the corridor. The chirper landed with a soft clink, then began emitting a series of high-pitched sounds, mimicking human vocalizations, distress calls, anything to draw mutants toward it. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then, the breathing sounds started again. Multiple sources now, but they weren't moving toward the chirper. They were moving around it, circling the team with methodical precision. "They're ignoring the lure," Deadeye breathed. "Something's guiding them. They know we're the real target." Steele's mind raced. If the Wraiths weren't hunting by sound alone, then what? His HUD flickered again, and this time he caught it. A spike in psionic activity, barely registering on his suit's bioscanners. The mutants were connected, coordinated by something beyond simple animal cunning. That's when Hammer's voice cut through the tension. "Boss, I can see it." Everyone's helmet lamps swiveled toward him. The big man was staring at a spot in the fog 3 meters ahead, his augmented eyes locked on something the rest of them couldn't perceive. "There's a shimmer, right there, like looking through water." Hammer's sledgehammer came up slowly. "It's breathing. I can see the air distortion when it inhales." Steele looked where Hammer indicated and saw it. A barely perceptible warping of the fog, a subtle refraction that would be invisible if you didn't know exactly where to look. The Wraith was standing perfectly still, perhaps 5 meters away, close enough to strike. "Everyone freeze," Steele ordered. "Don't breathe, don't move." 5 soldiers became statues. Steele felt his lungs burning, the urge to inhale becoming overwhelming. Beside him, he could hear Stitch's shallow, controlled breathing through his suit filters. 10 seconds. 20. 30. The Wraith's shimmer moved closer. 4 meters. 3. Steele's vision began to darken at the edges. His body screamed for oxygen, but he held, trusting in his training, in the ceramic armor between him and death. The Wraith reached out. Steele saw its arm extend, saw the shimmer of claws that could tear through flesh like paper. It was searching, questing, trying to pinpoint prey that had suddenly vanished from its sensory map. Then, Breach coughed. It was barely a sound, instantly suppressed, but in the terrible silence it was like a gunshot. The Wraith's head snapped toward the demolitions expert, and Steele saw it clearly for just a moment. Humanoid but elongated, skin like polished glass, eyes completely black and reflective. "Contact!" Steele roared, his carbine coming up. The fog exploded into motion. 3, no, 5 wraiths materialized from nowhere, their thermal camouflage failing as they attacked. Steele's first burst caught one in the chest, ceramic-tipped rounds punching through its sternum. The creature shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, and collapsed. Hammer Sledgehammer connected with another wraith mid-lunge, the kinetic impact so powerful it folded the mutant in half. Deadeye's rifle barked twice, killing a third that had been circling behind them. But the other 2 were faster, learning, adapting. One slashed at Steele's faceplate, claws scrapping across reinforced polymer. He felt the vibration through his skull, saw the scratches appear in his HUD's projection. Another second and it would have breached. Sticht was there, his sidearm pressed against the wraith's temple. Get off him! The shot turned the creature's head into black mist. The final wraith retreated into the fog, its shimmer fading as it restored thermal camouflage. But Steele had seen which way it went. He pulled a fragmentation grenade, cooked it for 2 seconds, and threw it blind into the crimson haze. The explosion was muffled by the fog, but the wraith's death scream was clear enough. Sound off, Steele commanded, checking his ammunition. 38 rounds remaining. Deadeye, green. Breach, green, but that cough, I think my suit seal is compromised. I'm breathing the fog. Stitch, green. I've got a patch kit. Breach, hold still. Hammer, green, and pissed. Those things almost got you, boss. Steele nodded, watching as Stitch worked quickly to reseal Breach's suit. But the damage was done. The demolitions expert had inhaled the red fog, had taken the crimson virus directly into his lungs. How long before the symptoms showed? Hours? Minutes? That's when Steele's HUD went haywire. Every sensor spiked simultaneously. Bioelectrical readings went off the scale. Psionic activity registered at levels his suit couldn't measure. And in the distance, through walls and fog and corrupted air, he heard something that made his skin crawl. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of silence. A void where noise should be. A pressure against his eardrums that felt like diving too deep underwater. What the hell? Deadeye started, then clutched his head. Migraine. Sudden. Bad. Steele felt it too. A spike of pain behind his eyes, like something trying to force its way into his skull. His HUD flickered, showing impossible data. Mutant signatures frozen in place all around them. Hundreds of them, all stopped mid-motion. Boss, Hammer's voice was strained. The mutants, they're not moving. Through the fog, Steele could see them now. Crawlers frozen on the ceiling, whisperers standing motionless in doorways. Even the red fog itself seemed to have stopped swirling. Everything had gone still, as if the entire complex was holding its breath. Wolf's voice exploded over the comms, frantic and terrified. Psystorm, it's beginning! The hive scream, the network is activating. You have maybe minutes before it hits full force. Sync your timers to mine right now. What? Wolf, explain. No time. I have a 24-hour suppressor, military grade, but I've only got 1 dose. You need to get to me before the storm peaks, or you'll lose yourselves. The virus will take you, rewrite you, and there won't be anything human left. Sync your timers to hour 312. That's when I injected myself. You'll know when your protection ends. Steele's fingers moved automatically, accessing his HUD's chronometer. He set a countdown. 23 hours, 48 minutes remaining. Around him, the team did the same. Raven, do you copy? Steele tried the other squad's channel. Lieutenant, what's your status? Static. Then, breaking through with massive interference. Steele, this is Raven. Detecting anomalous. Something big. Underground. Moving towards. Can't. The transmission cut off with a burst of white noise that made Steele's teeth ache. She's in trouble, Deadeye said, stating the obvious. She's 2 sectors away, and we're out of time, Steele replied coldly, hating himself for saying it. Wolf, we're coming to you. Talk us in. Take the left corridor, 30 meters to the server room entrance. But Steele, the fog is saturating faster than my models predicted. The Wraths were just scouts. When the Psystorm hits full intensity, everything in this complex is going to wake up, and they'll all know exactly where you are. The frozen mutants were starting to twitch, a crawler's leg spasm, a whisperer's jaw working soundlessly. The hive scream was building towards some terrible crescendo, and they were standing at ground zero. "Move out," ordered. "Double time, weapons hot. If it moves, shoot it. If it doesn't move, shoot it anyway." They ran through corridors thick with crimson fog, past laboratories where crystallized bodies pressed against windows, past examination rooms where surgical equipment had grown organic tendrils. The complex was mutating, the virus rewriting not just flesh, but metal and concrete, transforming human architecture into something alien. Steel's HUD marked their progress: 150 meters to Wolf, 100 meters, 50 meters. Behind them, the frozen mutants began to move again, but now they moved as one, coordinated, synchronized, driven by a single vast intelligence that was waking up. The hive scream was coming, and they were about to be caught in its full force. Steele's timer read hour 3:23. 23 hours, 37 minutes of protection remained. If they reached Wolf, if they survived the next few minutes, if the Psi-storm didn't tear their minds apart first. There, Stitch pointed ahead. Through the fog, Steele could see an open doorway, harsh white light spilling out. And in that light, a figure in a civilian hazmat suit, frantically wading them forward. Dr. Samuel Wolf, the man who held the key to their survival. "Go, go, go," Steele shouted, and the team sprinted the final distance as the complex behind them began to scream.
Thank you for listening. New chapters will be released daily on the channel. This audio material was produced exclusively for the Section 56 channel. All rights reserved.